Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I've got a new process video to share with you today, and if you can think back to my last video, if you were around for that, I sketched the design for the layout that I am going to be creating today. If you missed that video or you need a little refresher, the sketch is in the top left corner of your screen. Oh, and by the way, if you missed the last video, I'll leave the link down in the description box so that you can go check it out. Since I began using my Cricut to sketch and create layouts digitally, I've developed a method that really seems to work to keep me organized and the creative flow smooth. And the first thing I always do is print my photos. I print them at home. And I also gather all of my cardstock and the pattern paper that I plan on using. I personally prefer printing my photos at home for two reasons. First, if you have a printer at home that is really ink friendly, like an Epson EcoTank printer, it makes your printing a lot more cost effective versus ordering your prints online or going to a store and printing them that way. And secondly, I find that printing my photos at home gives me better control over which pictures I want printed, and I can print them at the size that I want. And let's be real, this is the reason why I sketch my layouts in the first place. I need to have a formula to follow in order to be happy with my scrapbooking. This is just me. This may not apply to you, but it's certainly the way my brain functions. When I'm done cropping my photos, I turn my attention to the papers that I plan on using. So you may have noticed just a moment ago that I was using a paper trimmer to cut pattern paper. I generally use a paper trimmer to cut paper that is meant to be mats in my layouts. Technically, you could use your Cricut to cut those mats as well, but I find it's a bit of a waste because there is a 1/4 of an inch allowance when you use your Cricut for cutting, and I don't like to waste that paper. So I use a paper trimmer to cut the mats, and I use the Cricut to cut everything else. So when you are crafting with your Cricut, whether it's scrapbooking or another type of project, it'll begin with the more complex parts of the project you're working on, such as drawing, and then it'll move to cutting. The same applies to print and cut as well. This part of my scrapbooking process tends to be a bit lengthy, so I always have something to kind of preoccupy myself while the Cricut is doing the parts that I can't do, which in this case is the drawing and the writing. Now, I can write, and handwriting, your journaling adds a personal touch that gets lost in the digital world. However, I can't make my text uniform and precise. The Cricut can, so that means I can add more details to my story because I have a lot more room to work with. For a girl that has big, bubbly, flowy writing, this is a match made in heaven. I think I should clarify the terminology that I'm using here. This isn't the best angle, but you know that the Cricut is writing my journaling right now. However, the function that I'm using to generate that writing is actually the draw function in Cricut Design Space. So what you are seeing being put on paper is how I've asked the Cricut to use the draw function. When this step is complete, the Cricut will move on to cutting. This step in the process is called draw and cut, and it's like a 2-for-1 deal. You get 2 steps completed in one pass. Draw and cut is followed by just simple, straightforward cut. Remember back at the beginning of this process video, I had mentioned that I gather my cardstock and pattern papers. Once I have all the papers that I plan on using, I separate them into 2 piles. That first pile I've already mentioned. It's the pattern paper that I plan to cut mats from for my layout. The second pile is set aside for the Cricut to take care of. Anytime your project, when you're working in Cricut Design Space, has more than one layer, and layers just refers to all the different parts of your project as you see it on your canvas. All those pieces are going to be separated and then grouped together by light color when you hit the make button to make your project. Those are then sorted by mats. So all light colors will be on one particular mat. Fun fact, you can also customize those images as well. If you don't like the color, you can change it. So when I pressed make to make this scrapbook layout, the Cricut started off with the draw and cut, and then it arranged the rest of the project by colors. So I started with black cardstock, then it went to blue cardstock, and I believe this is white cardstock again. I use this to my advantage when I am sketching a layout, so I can customize it specifically to the products that I want to use and or the theme that I'm going to use as well. Okay, my cutting is complete. Now what's next? In the space between cutting all of the images and assembling my layout, I take a few minutes to trim the papers that I put through the Cricut down so that all the pieces that have missing parts are cut off. I do that for a reason, and that is to help me with my paper organization and storage. Because as you can imagine, trying to store paper with pieces cut out of it ends up being a hot mess. I use 2 paper trimmers to help me with this. I made the switch from 12 by 12 scrapbooking to 6 by 8 scrapbooking when I decided to start crafting digitally. And so I have a 6 by 8 inch guillotine style paper trimmer that I use for the smaller bits of paper. And then I have a 12 by 12, I think it's Fisker's one as well. And it helps me with the pieces of paper I still have in my stash that are 12 by 12 inches. Now for the best part, gluing. This is a 6 by 8 digital scrapbook layout that I am creating today. If you can remember way back to the beginning of this video, the sketch that you saw there is this layout. So because it measures 6 by 8 inches, it will go into a 6 by 8 page protector and into my mini album. You just saw me add ATG to the back side of this white cardstock mat. This was the mat that was draw and cut that you saw at the beginning of this video. I like using my ATG adhesive on just basic shapes that are not really involved. And I like to use my liquid glue on images or parts of my layout that are very much more involved, like the title. Also, the tweezers are a handy little tool to have as well to aid you in making sure things are centered and to keep your fingers clean. If you've been subscribed to my channel for a while, you will know that coloring is fundamental to my scrapbooking. But the reason why I include it might surprise you. Since I began scrapbooking using my Cricut, I have learned that some images that I use in my layouts that I have found in the image library do not cut very well or at all based on their size. It also partially depends on how intricate and involved the image is. So I've come up with an alternate solution. Rather than cutting the image, let's convert it to draw. For me, this solution has proven to be successful. There have been some bumps in the road, but that's life, and you just learn as you go. Trial and error. At this point, I turn to my liquid adhesive to adhere both these pieces together that make up the embellishment. And then I turn my attention to the subtitle, February 2025. The title and the subtitle in this layout are key here. They're important because it gives you a clue as to what this layout is about and the story that I am telling. I'm participating in a project that was dreamt up by Lael Konkar. It's called About Last Month, and this is my entry for last month, February of 2025. February is important in our family because our kids celebrate their birthday in February. They turned 15 this year, which is why I have this embellishment that has 15 on it, and that's why the title is 15 as well. Side note, yes, I have twins. About Last Month was designed to be a solution. Time is precious, and when you want to stay caught up with your scrapbooking and not fall behind, how do you achieve that without getting overwhelmed by knowing where to start? The answer is simple. Start with last month. Whether it's big or small, it doesn't matter. Just document it all. I chose to focus on one major event that happened in February, which was the twins' birthday. It was an extra special birthday because not only were the twins turning 15, but we also learned early in the year, last year, that two of their favorite bands were going to be in Edmonton at Rogers Place, and we decided to gift them tickets to the concert for themselves and two friends. By the way, here's the clincher. The concert was on their birthday. So cool, right? My husband and I tagged along as well. We got tickets for ourselves and took in the concert as well. And honestly, we were not disappointed. So you just spent the last few minutes watching me try to fix my number 15 embellishment. Here you can see scratch paper that I have with different marker colors scribbled all over it. I use scratch paper as a tool to help me swatch colors when I'm scrapbooking. Basically, I use it to help me coordinate the colors and be sure that things look okay before I commit to them. Sometimes that backfires. However, through this exercise, I know now how to fix this embellishment. So I will attach my photos to the right-hand side of the layout, which is the very last step in this process anyways. What would you have done with that number 15 embellishment? Would you have left it, or would you have changed it like I did? Leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Close-ups are coming up next, so feel free to stick around for those. As always, thanks for joining me today. If you enjoyed my video, please give it a thumbs up. If you are new to my channel, I'm sending you a big hearty welcome. And if you're seeing my channel for the very first time, I hope you liked what you saw, and I really hope you come back again. Be sure to press the subscribe and bell buttons so you're notified every time I post a new video.